Welcome back, and today I'm doing an indoor bike review, and that's because if I wait any longer here in Ireland it'll be a 2-year review because it hasn't stopped raining. In fact, right now I need a boat rather than a bike. And first off, I'll say that I'm not just making this video for the sake of making another video. What I mean by that is I'm referring to the 3-month review that I did on this bike. So whilst a lot of my thoughts are the same, a couple have shifted, and there have also been a few findings throughout the year of ownership which you would only find after owning the bike for a year. So let's kick off with that first thing. So my first observation is that it has been rather heavy on the Michelin Road 6 tyres. I do have those tyres on all of my other bikes for the last few years, and they last a lot longer on other bikes. Now I get it, this bike is a lot heavier, and I dare say that's probably the biggest reason. But 8,000 kilometres really on the set of tyres, and they're pretty much well worn now. In fact, I'm thinking of changing them before I even ride down to Cork to get the bike serviced. Cork is about 300 kilometres away. I'm not sure I'd get that out of the tyres, and the back wheel has been skidding and losing grip, so I think I will be changing the tyres out. I am going to try, by the way, the new Anarchy Adventure 2s, again from Michelin, but I'm reading great reports about them. I know they're only new out, so stay tuned and I'll let you know how I get on with those tyres. The other thing to mention is that now that I've improved my off-roading skills thanks to my CRF, I wouldn't mind trying a few dirt tracks, a few gravel roads on this GSA. I certainly have built up the confidence a lot. Now, next up, and I know a lot of you, especially on the forums, are constantly asking about this, it's the ASA, the Automatic Shift Assist. Would I buy it again? Yes, I would. I'd still pay for that option. And the reason is I've become used to it. I know when the bike is going to change. It's still a problem on the roundabouts. Lord knows why BMW haven't fixed that in like a firmware update. I think when I did my 3-month review, I said I'm sure it'll be fixed in a firmware update. Well, it still isn't. My bike does go in for service within the next fortnight, and I'm hoping, miraculously, that somewhere on the system it'll say my bike needs an update and it will fix that. But I was told it was going to happen when I took the bike for its first service, and it didn't. But what I will say is that I can nearly forecast when the bike is going to change gear. I've settled into that. It's just, it still throws you. And for somebody new on the bike, especially when you're going around a roundabout or around a corner or a bend and then it changes gear, it's enough to really sort of knock your confidence a little bit. So I do not like that, and I still get a wobble every time that happens. But like I say, I'm going to live with it. I've become a lot more accustomed to it, and I'd still buy it. So maybe that's a shift in my gearbox rather than in the bike's. So on the motorway, I've noticed I've become an extremely lazy rider because of that tech. And even when I go on a long spin, and indeed when I take the bike for its next service down to Cork, I'll sit there like I'm in an armchair. I'll let the bike do all of the work, all of the gear changing, and with radar cruise control as well. I mean, it really is like riding in luxury. And the next thing I want to talk about, and again, this is something else I could have just become accustomed to, I hope it's not all down to that, is the sound of the engine. I really didn't like the sound of the engine, but the more miles I'm putting on the bike, nearly 10,000 kilometres at this stage, it's definitely hit a bit of a sweet spot in terms of the note of the engine. It sounds more like my old R1300GS, and when I first started riding this 1300GSA, it was as far apart from the 1200 note as I could possibly imagine. In fact, I think I mentioned in the 3-month review, I thought the engine sounded broken on this bike. Anyway, pleased to report it's definitely getting better the more miles I'm putting on it, so very happy with the engine note. I did consider at one stage during the year even changing out the exhaust, putting a different end can or something on it, but I'm very happy I didn't, and that I've stuck with the twin Acra because I think the note is sounding really sweet now. This big boy's just woken up. Another thing I've thought of quite a bit throughout the year of ownership with this bike is that, well, I'm delighted, first of all, that I didn't go with the 1250 GSA because of this very reason, because the 1250 GSA is about an inch taller, and I'm just on the cusp of being able to fit the 1300 GSA That's down to the adjustable ride height. If I hadn't have got that, I would have been in serious trouble, especially because the bike is pretty top heavy with a full tank of fuel. That 30-litre fuel tank really does want to lose the centre of gravity when you come to a standstill on a bit of a camber. If the bike was any taller and without it sinking down below 25 kilometers an hour, I would have been in big trouble. So I'm delighted I made that move and took that as an option. And just for reference, I'm 5'8" and a 30-inch inseam. Technically a short arse. Who would have thought I could have fit a big bike like this? Now, one of the slight negatives about the bike is the weight of it. And in fairness, I knew this before I even bought the bike. So whilst my confidence is creeping up in terms of taking it off-road and trying a little bit of gravel tracks, as I mentioned, part of me keeps telling me, well, maybe don't do that, because if I dropped the bike and I was by myself, there's not a chance I'd be able to get the thing upright again. During the year, I went for the LoneRider luggage, which I much prefer the looks of compared to the BMW luggage. Now, in fairness, I went to buy that luggage and then LoneRider returned to me and said, listen, we'll give it to you free of charge in return for your reviews. So we did that, and I have to say, not only do I love the look of the luggage, now, again, I think I made a bit of a boo-boo going for that big top box. I think I would have been better off going for the smaller top box for everyday use. Although when I go to the ABR every year and take the kitchen sink with me, the big top box speaks volumes. Get it? About 60 odd litres of volume or something like that. But I not only do I love the looks of the LoneRider luggage, and again this is all subjective, but I also love the look of the scaffold, the LoneRider scaffold, which is so much better in my opinion compared to the BMW scaffold which the bike comes with. So I'm delighted aesthetically that I got rid of that. I do love the BMW tank bag, albeit it's a little bit too big for everyday use again. So I'd love it if BMW in the future made a smaller, like a 5-litre tank bag to fit the bike. Now, I put this out on a forum recently and I got so many answers saying, oh yeah, try this, try that, try that. I don't want a tank bag with a tank ring. I want it to fit the attachment on the fuel tank and then sit flat on top of the tank without any tank ring. Another finding after a year of ownership is not the 50 miles to the gallon that I was getting within the first few months. Clearly I was riding rather gingerly. I'm getting around 42 to 43 miles to the gallon, which is a bit of a significant jump. So even though it's got a 30-litre fuel tank, I'm still filling it up the same amount as I was with my old 1200 GS, albeit it's a lot more expensive. I'm aware a lot of other owners have had a lot of fault messages on their TFT screen, that horrible brown box which appears, and you know it's bad news when one of them appears. Although saying that, even though I've had two, it's both been for the same thing, and it's after I've noticed that I've power washed the bike, so I think it's something to do with sort of water ingress on the SOS button on the right side of the handlebar, where that little flap covers the red button. I think it's to do with that, because after the bike has dried out for 3 or 4 days after the wash, the fault then clears. The fault does say SOS deactivation, contact your dealer, safe to ride or something like that to the nearest dealer. So I think it's a small electrical fault only because of the amount of water in there. But a good blowout with the old bike dryer does clear the fault, although the first time it appeared I thought, oh no, here we go. One clear design flaw, in my opinion, is the length of the side stand. Before I bought the adapter to raise it, it was nearly impossible to get the bike upright when I was sat on the bike and with a full tank of fuel. So that really does need addressing in the future, BMW. Come on! And still, after a year of looking at this, what I think is a stunning looking bike, I've never encountered any other bike as divisive in terms of looks in my whole motorcycling history. It's unbelievable. But saying that, people who don't know about motorbikes, even in a filling station or wherever I may be, still want to come over and have a look at it. They've never seen anything like it. It's absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. They're probably just saying that, but in my eyes, I really do think it's an absolute head turner. I love the looks of it, even more so. And the final question is, do I have any regrets? and I'm afraid I do. I have one. I wish I hadn't told my wife how much I actually paid for the bike, because that's come back to bite me on the backside a few times this year. But other than that, I'd buy another one of these bikes. I think they're amazing. I'd buy another one tomorrow if I had to. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that's answered a lot of your questions. And if you have any more, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'll be back on YouTube next Saturday, 8 AM. That was me for Wheelie Good TV.